mixtures. Will you please tell us the mixtures? I said, no, I won't. I will not give you the mixtures. And so A is mixed with B? No, it is not. A is mixed with E. And does it go 5 hours? Does it go 3-hour mix? Or what does it go? And they could not figure out the mixtures. And it was said like they'd have to win the lottery every week for the next 10 years. It's impossible. There's too many combinations. And so that stopped them right there in their tracks. So this is a safe product for an investor in many, many ways, because no competitor will be able to copy it.
That's key.
That is the key. And the second thing is that basically there's no code date required. Most companies have all these products returned after 90 or 120
Which
days.
can certainly eat into the bottom line profit of a corporation if half the product comes back and you've got to deal with that.
That's right. I know a product.
And because it's a single-use and hygienic product near a nasal orifice, you can say it's a single-use sale only with no returns required. But the investor would know that there's probably going to be no returns anyway.
And Cold FX product, they have a product just for colds only.
That's a competitor?
Yeah, and the Americans have reported in their journals that $40 billion a year is lost due to colds, the common cold. And so this is a very valuable product. And
well, if you tack on to that the more recent outbreaks of bird flu and you move into the agronomy world, can we talk about this application in the animal world for a moment?
well, one of the veterinarians in our group, he said the bird flu has been around for a long, long time, and he's gone into chicken pens where there's been 10,000, 20,000 chickens, and he said they just plop over and die. And he said we can take a product and we can spray into the chicken pens and to save these chickens. Because in California they lost over $100 million in their chickens.
Well, even just last month in Mexico they slaughtered 2 million chickens because of bird flu.
That's right.
And if that much of your crop is being wasted, can you imagine the recycle, reuse, and redo? You know, the recycling of food products that are so critical to the nature and the quality of the food product itself. For instance, if we had pork tapeworm causing diabetes, we could miss the pork tapeworm farms, which have just been bought out in America by the Chinese last week. And we could have misted, safe products without mad cow disease, without pork tapeworm, without roundworm, and we have a safer food chain.
Right, and McDonald's, I was in touch with a McDonald's restaurant several years ago, and they wanted to get away from using the steroids in their beef cattle. And so Cargill industry, who was supplying all the beef at that time for McDonald's restaurant, approached me, and I have all the documents on it, and they wanted us to supply the Medic-brreath for their cattle, their beef cattle. And but we didn't want to license it because we wanted to sell it to the right person, to the right people.
Well, it is something that really does have so many applications. That's one of its benefits in terms of lateral market. It's easy to produce, for one thing. It's got a simple but secret combination of production, but the actual production of a small bullet like that does not require complex machinery.
No.
A lipstick factory can do it.
That's right.
So
the gross profits.
So the gross profits really are superb in the respect that it only takes 50 cents of materials and you sell that for $30.
Now,
but a puffer, an allopathic prescription puffer is $80, $90.
Of course.
So this is about 1/3 of the cost of a typical allopathic pharmaceutical remedy using a more safe, natural, non-returnable, heat-stable, solid or misting formula.
Yes, of course.
What other advantages about this have you seen that I haven't mentioned right now that might be coming to your mind since you've been involved with it for so long?
Yeah, well, I think it's like a standard transmission in a car. There's nothing to go wrong with it, really. It's a solidified solution. We don't have to worry about the spray. So this can be used in Africa, hot countries and cold countries. And then when the professors had taken this to the universities and they tested it after 7 or 8 years, there was no deterioration in the product. And heat and cold doesn't bother. So that is this is a superior product. And so I think it's going to make a fortune. I think the first year will at least do approximately $6 billion in profit.
So that's $30 a tube times 200 million units, or 66 million households buying 3 per household.
That's right.
You can penetrate the market as a preventative, sell it in, what would you target in your market as to where you might target an audience towards that?
One of the pharma companies that were very interested in this, and they wanted to take it to China. They wanted to go to Shanghai, and I said, why Shanghai? And he said, there's so much pollution in Shanghai, so many people are wearing these little masks and that. And if they had this, they wouldn't have to wear the mask. They could do it right away, use it right away. And so I would say the Chinese market would be the market.
Well, they would be approving of herbs.
Mm-hmm.
They understand the concept of prevention.
That's right.
They know the elements, which are all in here. The earth, air, fire, and wood elements are in here to help your whole system be balanced.
Right, and so that would be a real quick startup because there's 12 million people living in Shanghai, and most of them have respiratory problems.
Well, also as a physician in Toronto, I know that there's a serious issues with tuberculosis and hepatitis, which would be maybe another market alongside in the China market. But I must say to you, the common cold is everywhere now. Bird flu can be everywhere. SARS has been announced in Saudi Arabia this week, and this is probably a likely SARS solution.
Yeah, and
we'd like to have that research, of course, before we make any claims.
Yeah.
But anything that turns on the immune system against most viruses, most funguses, most yeast and other bacteria and microbes, it likely has some fundamental unique property at the base of the root of the problem, meaning your immune system's ability to be fortified, as well as the natural killing effect of some of the ingredients in here, which cause make it impossible for microorganisms to reproduce or to slide the mucus off their jacket and make them dissolve.
Mm-hmm. And I know the oncologist, after looking at my cancer, said, "You're the worst patient we've ever had at Toronto General, and you just don't have a life expectancy over a few months."
And here you are 7 years later.
Here I am 7 years later.
Well, that's a wonderful testimonial, and I would like to take a moment then to just conclude this brief introduction. For any of you who are interested in our prospectus, we have a detailed biography of myself as a medical director, as well as all the biography of the documents from the major studies done in clinical trials by the original researchers. And I have reviewed those documents and can conclude that they do have reproducible results in a provable way, and that further testing is not necessary. I think that we need to go to market on this. We need some kind of manufacturing contract and a licensing contract. And because of the multiplicity of ingredients, you might have a multiple contract where the licensing body has both a farming license for the purity of the herbs using new quantum methods of herbology. You might have a laboratory that mixes it under the secret conditions such that the non-patented formulation is remaining in the hands of the humanitarian purposes and not copied or shelved. That we have another branch that's the manufacturer to tubulate it, and or to bring it into a second factory for misting for animal use or food chain use. And then a final other company for licensing its distribution and the source of distribution through clinics or through airports and hotels. We have that yet to be determined by the owner, who's going to have a multiple vertical and horizontal markets to choose from.
And Dr. Deb, if I might say one thing in closing, is that people say, if it's so good, why do you want out? And most people don't realize I'm almost 80 years of age, and if I were 50 years of age, there's no way I would ever sell this. I would take it to market myself, and I would run with it. But because of my age factor, I think everybody can see the reason why. I want to get it right in hands. We could sell it to the pharmaceutical companies. I know we can't, but many of them will shelve it. That's what they told me. And I said, why would you want to shelve it? And they said, if you don't shelve it, you'll cut into our industry. You'll hurt our industry. So they think that we'll take over the market.
The fact that is an absolute erroneous calculation is the fact that the respiratory illnesses from pollution are rising, so their market is going to be the same, and we need extra support within that market to bring it down so that everybody isn't at a critical state. We need the prevention to stop the millions of people moving into hospitals. In Canada, we have now taken a huge chunk of the hospital budget, which wasn't working, where people were getting more infections, where they were getting sicker in the hospital, or they were getting too expensive in the hospital, and we've now moved them back home to home care. And a huge bunch of money has gone for home care workers to take courses now to help keep people well at home. What about giving them this to keep them well so they don't get the complications of pneumonia when they're down with their broken hip, or they don't get the bladder infections because they've got the catheter in, or they have other sports team use for this, for keeping asthma out of the hands of athletes at high altitudes. There's so many applications.
I know. One of the professors at Toronto University had taken me into their I call it a little shopper's drug mart they have down there, and they have rows and rows of herbal medicine. And he said, you know, your company will remove all these products. He said, you'll take over the market completely.
Well, that's great for us,
Yes, it
but
is.
it's not necessarily that we want to hurt the competition. We want society to be accessible to something that we know works, that has a proven successful track record in clinical trials with 19 clinical professors, was it?
Yes.
Over 5,000 people tested in 7 years. It was sanctioned by governments and high-level professors at university level.
Yes.
I'm here as the luxurious position of now helping bring this product back into the focus where it's been perhaps sitting in the secondary, you know, understudy position to penicillins, cephalosporins, quinolones, and all these other drugs which are finding resistance. Yet we haven't found resistance in herbs because they're food, and food can be very stimulating to the natural processes, therefore needs a small dose inhaled through the nose to bypass the liver, and suddenly we have one of the safest and most potent products on the planet.
That's right, exactly.
Congratulations, this is quite a feat that you've accomplished, and I want to thank you on behalf of all those who are going to benefit from this, that you've hung in there all this time.
Yes.
With the belief knowing that this needs to come humanitarianly.
Now it's for people your age to take over.
That's it.
The
So what I'd like to conclude with is we're looking for some partnerships, either through some investment capital, humanitarian investment, sponsorship money, or preferably a partnership with someone who has manufacturing capacities and distribution, since this is now ready for that final phase of its catalytic explosion onto the market. So we're looking for someone who both believes in the herbal world, who wants preventative, who wants to bring this to market, and who has $200 million to bring it out of its shell to a massive production capacity and possibly garner as much as it could, for instance, at $30 a tube in 200 million sales, garner $6 billion of gross revenue. If your company is looking for gross revenue that could then be used for other projects, other research, or other humanitarian efforts, what a wonderful way that you can use one good deed towards another. I'm a humanitarian, a doctor of humanitarian services. I'm a doctor of integrated medicine. I'm also an integrative health coach and a worldwide instructor in quantum biofeedback. And I bring to this project certain unique abilities to see not only its application from both my 25 years as an allopathic doctor and now my 10 years as an integrated doctor. I can see that it's one of the crossover bridge items that can actually be used by both sides of the street, and therefore beneficial as a crossover, I don't know, goodwill ambassador to help reunite United Medicine. And only this week has the Board of Integrative Medicine and world organizing bodies within the College of Family Physicians recognized integrative medicine, and that herbs, acupuncture, and old ancient traditions that worked for 5,000 years are still a good bet in these days and age. So we hope that you'll take seriously that we've been well researched, we've been well traveled, we've been well seasoned, and we think that this is one of the best possible products that we can put our heart and soul and shoulder behind to help bring to market. We hope you'll join us, and we hope that you'll see the benefit for not only yourself but for humanity. Please join us. We'll be visiting the trade centers, writing letters, and finding someone who fits our bill. Next week we'll be at the Sheraton Center with the Hong Kong Board of Trade.
I believe there's 60 to 80 members coming over from China.
Wonderful. And we've also procured some herbal importation lines of distribution for transoceanic herbal importation. We have abilities for manufacturing that have been simplified by the plastics industry. We're waiting on someone to drop that diamond and go in. Let's get going. Nice to meet you, Al. Take care and good luck with all that, and I'll be right behind you the whole way.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I hope you've enjoyed this presentation by Dr. Deborah, and it gives you sort of a capsule comment on what we want to do and where we're going with this product. And I just know that the new owners will be very, very happy with this project. And again, thank you.